every year marks another year, that there's no closure. I still have insomnia 30 years after the fact. I wish I'd solved the crime for the families. We tried.
This is I can't believe it's yogurt.
I was a cop for 32 years at Austin PD. I'll always be associated with that case. There's no getting away from that. I just hope one of these days we can put this thing to bed.
It was supposed to be the start of a fun weekend. Just 4 teenage girls hanging out and being friends. They were Amy Ayers, Sarah Harbison, Jennifer Harbison, and Eliza Thomas. They were probably like most teenagers at the time. They talked about fashion, boys, movies, and more. They just lived normal lives in Texas and didn't expect that to change. They were a part of the future farmers of America, already showing an interest in their careers. But this would change on December 6, 1991. On this day, the Austin police got a report of a fire at a yogurt shop at a strip mall. They thought this would be like any normal fire. Firefighters would put it out and save anyone if they were inside. When they got there, though, the victims were already dead. However, it wasn't from the fire. These girls had been murdered. They had been shot, and a fire was made to destroy evidence. For over 30 years, the murders remained unsolved. 30 years of torture and sadness for their families. Luckily, however, it has been solved, giving closure to the families. But the fact remains, these murders still happened and took years to solve. This is the story of how the fates of 14 girls changed at a yogurt shop. This is the Yogurt Shop Murders Case. But before I begin, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications as well. Amy Ayers was born on January 31st, 1978, to Bob and Pam Ayers. She had an older brother named Sean and lived her whole life in Austin. She was a very spirited girl. She loved animals, making jokes, and being with people. She had dreams of being a vet one day, showing her love for nature. She was a student at Burnett Middle School, where teachers and other students described her as a good student. She had a bright personality that could cheer anyone up. She was friends with Sarah Harbison, a victim as well. Sarah was born on October 28, 1976, to Mike and Barbara Harrison. Sarah herself was very much like Amy. Kind, intelligent, and mature. She liked sports and, like Amy, loved animals. She admired her older sister Jennifer, whom she looked up to. Even though her and Jennifer's parents separated, while she was little, she was happy. She was a student at Linear High School, where she was a freshman and where she took part in many things. Then there's Jennifer. Jennifer was Mike and Barbara's older daughter, born on May 9th, 1974. She grew up in Texarkana, but she, her mother, and sister moved to Austin when her parents went their separate ways. She was an excellent student, showing determination and dedication. She went to the same school as Sarah, where she was a junior. She was a born leader, being president of the school's Future Farmers of America chapter. She was kind and overall just loved life, making jokes that were so bad anyone just couldn't help but laugh. She was active, being on her school's track team and drill team. She had a job at I Can't Believe It's Yogurt, along with her friend Eliza Thomas. For her, it was a good way to make a little money and spend time with her friend. Lastly, there is Eliza Thomas. She was born on May 16, 1974, to James and Maria Thomas. She had one sister, Sonora. Like the other girls, she was a great student where she was also a part of the band as a clarinet player and sang in choir. She was kind, curious, and confident. Though she would be shy at times, but once she and someone got to know each other, she was an open book. And of course, she loved animals. Being wise and mature for her age, she took a job at I Can't Believe It's Yogurt to earn money and learn to be an adult. She and Jennifer loved working there as they got to work together. 4 girls, just 4 regular girls living their lives, all ready to grow up soon. They were all kind, smart, mature, and loved animals and life. One day, they would all have careers and possibly be mothers themselves. Sadly, this would never happen. On December 6, 1991, all 4 girls would be part of the most cruel, evil, and tragic murder cases in the city of Austin. A case that will remain unsolved for decades, and it all started at a yogurt shop. December 6, 1991. As the fall air started to be pushed away from the winter air, the days were also getting colder. Christmas was on its way as many shoppers crowded malls and stores to buy gifts. Jennifer and Eliza were working their shifts at their yogurt shop that night. Amy and Sarah were hanging out and decided to go see them to get a ride home. Little did they know, this choice would result in all their deaths. At around 11:47 p.m., a rookie officer named Troy Gay was on his nightly patrol. Being a rookie, he didn't see much action yet. But tonight, he would be part of one of Austin's biggest cases. While out, Gay saw some smoke coming from West Anderson Lane. Upon a closer look, it was coming from the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt shop. He called the fire department as many firefighters and cops showed up at the scene. Firefighters got to work to put the fire out to keep it from spreading. At the same time, Sergeant John Jones also showed up. Jones worked for the homicide department and at the time was filming a video about murder. When he learned of the fire, he came with his video crew. After the fire was out, the crew went to inspect the damage. They went in with flashlights, looking at the damage. But soon, it took a much darker turn. As they looked more around, they would find a burned body on the floor. They then saw another, then another, then another. One of the victims was on top of the other. It was pretty clear the people were already dead. At first, cops and firefighters assumed they were just victims who didn't get out. The damage to the victims was extreme. 3 of the bodies were so burnt that they were unrecognizable. Even their faces were mostly gone. Only one victim was not burnt as badly. At first sight, their sex and race couldn't even be said. But it got worse. Not only were the victims burnt, they were also tied up, bound, and each shot in the head. At least one of them had been sexually assaulted. Cops and firefighters were horrified. They'd seen some bad scenes, but this was one of the worst. This wasn't an accidental fire. These people had been murdered. The police were able to find out who the victims were. Amy Ayers, Sarah Harbison, Jennifer Harbison, and Eliza Thomas. 4 young girls who never got to really live. The families were devastated. Who would be evil enough to kill 4 young girls like this? The way it was gone horrified the public. The girls had been gagged and tied up. The person who did this didn't just kill them and ran. They wanted to destroy the girls' innocence first. Amy, the youngest, is believed to have been sexually assaulted. The girls were lined up in an execution-style look. Each girl had been shot with a .22 caliber pistol. Amy might have been shot with a 3.80. The girls weren't tied up with rope or anything like that. They had been tied up with their own clothes, such as underwear. The girls' parents could only imagine what this monster did to their daughters in their last moments. What's really sad is that this was almost time for the girls to come home. They were closing up before all this happened. It would not have happened if they got to close earlier. But it did. With the fire out, the girls identified, and the town shocked, there was another thing to do. Who did this? Who killed these girls, and for what reason? Soon an investigation that took 30 years would take place. One of the first things to do was ask people who might have known something. According to the girls' friends, Sarah and Amy were going to have a slumber party that night. They hanged out for a while before going to the shop where the other two worked. Some customers were questioned who were there that day. One couple claimed that they saw two men sitting in the back looking quiet. An hour before closing, a man used a restroom in the back of the store. The same man might have jammed the rear door, which was used to get in later. While people were being looked at, investigators put an idea of how things might have happened. The girls were closing down by cleaning, restocking, putting up chairs, and more. As they did this, someone came in through the unlocked rear door. This might have happened through either jamming it or the man in the bathroom hid until closed and let another one in. Once in, the perpetrator or more overpowered the girls by gagging, tying, and then shooting them with a .22 caliber pistol. He or one of them might have sexually assaulted Amy. The man or men then set the shop on fire to destroy evidence and fled through the back door. Investigators tried to look for any witnesses who could help. Because of the fire, much of the evidence was destroyed. DNA testing was still in its early years, so it wasn't much help. However, 8 days later, a breakthrough happened. A young 15-year-old man named Maurice Pierce, who had been at the same mall Sarah and Amy were at, was caught with a .22 caliber pistol, the same kind that the girls were shot with. While being questioned, Pierce said he let his friend Forrest Wellborn borrow the gun and claimed he was the one who killed them. Wellborn claimed he knew nothing, saying he, Pierce, as well as two other 17-year-olds named Michael Scott and Robert Springsteen, stole an SUV from San Antonio. After several hours on investigation, Jones and the police let them go, believing they were innocent. Some were mad about this. They thought Pierce having the gun that same night at the mall was too much of a coincidence. In 1999, 8 years after the murders, all four boys would be arrested and charged with murder. Scott and Springsteen confessed to the murders after a lengthy questioning. It seems it was finally over, but it wasn't what it seemed. It turned out Scott and Springsteen were threatened and manipulated while being investigated. One detective, Hector Polkinko, had a bad track record with false confessions. Pierce would sit in jail for a few years, but never went to trial, and his charges were dropped. Wellborn was let go when a jury refused to indict him twice due to lack of evidence. Scott admitted to the murders in 1999, telling police what they did, but his lawyer said he was manipulated and threatened. He was originally given a life sentence, but by 2009 his charges were dropped. DNA testing showed no match for him. Springsteen too confessed, saying it was originally a robbery scene gone wrong. He was given a death sentence, but it was later overturned when his lawyers said his Sixth Amendment was violated. Like with Scott, he was pressured to admit. DNA also cleared him. For the families in Austin, it was frustrating. Years after these girls were murdered, and no one knows who did it. Despite being cleared, the families believe the boys were involved. Despite being the main suspects, there were more people who were guessed or confessed along with theories. But what are they? There have been many theories on how this happened, until it was solved years later. Of course, there was the theory that the four boys did it, or at least two of them. Supposedly, it was only supposed to be a robbery, but things went wrong, which led to the girls' murders. This was the theory that most people believed for years, but DNA ruled them all out. Of course, Pierce did have a gun on him that was like the one used on the girls, but the bullets did not match. Police used dozens of .22s to find which one, but never did. It seems Pierce was at the wrong place at the wrong time. There's also a theory it was done by professionals. Some argue the boys weren't smart enough to pull this off. The couple said the suspicious people in the back were two men and not teens. But the murderer left things behind which professionals try not to do. Some thought it might have been a serial killer. Texas had had many of them, and it might have been possible an unknown one killed them that night. Again, much of the DNA and evidence was destroyed by fire and water, and DNA testing was still rather new in 1991. It didn't help that over 50 people claimed to have killed the girls, but a lot of these people were either mentally ill or just wanted attention. 2 Mexican nationals confessed to killing them, but it was debated and they were let go. A serial killer named Kenneth McGuff was also considered, as his victims were similar to the ones he killed, but he too was ruled out. Many teenagers in the Austin area were looked at, but all were clean. With so many confessions leading to a long list, everyone wondered who it was on the list or if they were even on it. Every person had to be looked at. For some, it was impossible for it to be them, and for others, it looked like it could be, but one clue would rule them out. As time passed, people began to wonder if the case would ever be solved. Less tips would come in, and less evidence piles up. For all they know, the killer might be dead. Would the case ever be solved? The answer is yes. Yes, it would. But it would take 34 years. The girls' murders were tragic and sad. Their funerals were held days later. According to some reports, the funerals were attended by as much as 1,500 people. A billboard was put up that stood for decades, asking anyone if anyone knew who killed them. It was a haunting reminder for the town. To the families, it was endless grief, anger, trauma, stress, and fear. As the parents got older, they had to wonder if they would ever see their daughters' murders come to justice. All 4 boys who were originally considered suspects were let go, adding to the negativity. Pierce himself would find a bloody end. In 2010, he was stopped by a cop, but he ran and tried to cut the cop's throat. The cop responded by shooting him. He died from his injuries. Wellborn, Scott, and Springsteen would go on to try to live normal lives afterward, but the damage was done. Scott and Springsteen would say in interviews they only confessed due to pressure and threats. The yogurt shop became a store called Classy Nail Salon. It then became a place called Beauty Bar Plus Lounge. The workers leave little gifts for the girls every year so they wouldn't be forgotten. In 2015, Eliza's mother would die, not knowing her daughter's killer. The families began to wonder if they would be next, but that was about to change. DNA technology had improved in the last 30 years. In 2022, the case was looked at again with the new technology. Then, 3 years later, everyone would get the answer they have longed for. The killer was found. Using DNA from under the girl's nails and matching bullets, police were able to say the killer was serial killer Robert Eugene Brashers. Brashers killed at least 8 women in his life. However, he wasn't convicted during his life. To the public, he was just a low-level criminal. He attacked a woman in 1985. He went to jail a year later and was released in 1989. He would commit some more crimes such as breaking and entering, grand theft auto, and assault. On January 13, 1999, Brashers stole a car and held his family hostage for hours. He eventually let them go, but rather than go to prison, he committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. He died a week later. For years, Brashers was just seen as a violent punk and nothing more. But that changed in 2018 when DNA proved he was a serial killer. He was linked to the murder of 28-year-old Genevieve Jenny Javicki, whom he killed on April 5, 1990, in Greenville, South Carolina. He killed her by strangling her with pantyhose and raped her as well. He also killed a 38-year-old woman named Sari Scrocher and her 12-year-old daughter, Megan, in Port Ageville, Missouri, on March 28, 1998. He tied them up, raped Megan, and shot them with a .22 caliber. He tried to rape another woman, but the woman fought him. In 1997, he broke into a home, tied everyone up, and raped a 14-year-old girl. He has also been linked to a murder in Kentucky that has little public details yet. But in September 2025, he was linked to 4 more. He was announced as the yogurt shop killer. Amy, Sarah, Jennifer, and Eliza were killed by this monster. 34 years. That's what it took. For 34 years, the families, friends, and Austin community had to live not knowing what happened. But now, it was over. Everyone could now have closure, and the girls could rest at peace. One could only wish that DNA technology was like this in 1991, so Brashers could have faced real justice. But at least it's solved. And as it gets better, even more will be solved, finally ending more cold cases. The yogurt shop murders were one of the most tragic in Austin history. These girls had dreams, and they all ended in the hands of a low-life coward. Jennifer and Eliza just wanted to make a little extra money, and Amy and Sarah wanted a ride home to have a slumber party. It's sad to think there are people out there who would do these things. For 34 years, the family suffered, not knowing the truth. While it might be solved now, it won't bring them back. While the billboard can be taken down, the history remains. Brashers has been linked to 8 murders in the last 7 years. Who is to say he didn't kill more? With the better technology, he soon may be linked to more soon. Some have questioned if he acted alone or not. The people said that they saw 2 suspicious men in the back. If this is true and one of them was Brashers, who was the other? Why wasn't his DNA found? Was he just lookout? Police say he worked alone though. John Jones, who's one of the top officers on the case, who spent so much time on it, determined to figure it out, was wearing a green and white striped shirt on the day of the murders. He promised to the families he would wear it again when the cases were solved. Since then, he only wore it twice. Once in 1999 with the false confessions, and again when they were finally solved in 2025. The Yogurt Town murders are a tragic event that is solved with hopefully many to follow. And with 4 brave souls like this, they will be.
I just hope one of these days we can put this thing to bed. For the family's sake.